Voting in Iran's presidential election is underway. Turnout's expected to be low because of widespread apathy after hundreds of candidates, including prominent moderates, were barred from standing. Voters are also angry about the impact of international sanctions, unemployment and hardline rule.
A new day, but not a new dawn. As the curtains rose on Iran's elections, the old guard remains firmly in control. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei casting his vote after barring hundreds of reformist candidates from running. With their choices limited, many have decided to stay away from the polls. Turnout is projected at a record low. I won't vote because whether I do or not, someone has already been elected. They are only organising the elections for the media. Posing for the cameras, the man likely to become Iran's next president. Hardline candidate Ebrahim Raisi is poised to succeed the moderate Hassan Rouhani, shifting power even further towards the conservative clerics. This will leave the hardliners in charge of negotiations to revive an international deal to limit Iran's nuclear enrichment. Those who did turn out to vote lament the crippling US sanctions imposed after the Trump administration withdrew from the deal. We don't have an issue with the way the election is run or with the regime, but the state of the economy has been hard on us. This problem should have been solved. If Iran's new government fails to address its economic woes, the queues could be even shorter next time polls open.
Let's take a closer look at this with journalist and political analyst Negar Mortazavi, who hosts the Iran podcast and joins us from Washington, D.C. Welcome to DW. Let's start with the presidential candidates. Iran's Guardian Council whittled down hundreds of candidates to just 7, and then 4 dropped out. So what does this tell us about the direction that the country's supreme leader wants the country to take?
Well, the hardliners who control the Guardian Council, the watchdog that is responsible for qualifying or disqualifying, seem to be attempting to consolidate power and cut any true competition or rivalry in this election for Ebrahim Raisi, the hardline favorite, because elections in Iran have never been free or fair, but they have been competitive. There has been some serious competition in some of the previous elections, and Ebrahim Raisi, in fact, ran once before in 2017, and he lost to Hassan Rouhani. So this seems to be a clearing of the path for him to an easy victory and preventing another embarrassing defeat for the current head of judiciary, which is Raisi.
OK, so this is something that often gets overlooked when we're looking at Iran's movements in the world, the idea that there are power struggles within the regime.
Definitely. There are power struggles. We have to remember the supreme leader, the top person in power, is a hardliner. He's the hardline person in power, and there's usually this perception that it's a one-man show, it's one hardliner show. But there are definitely struggles within the political system. The moderates and the reformists have created some serious challenges to the hardliners and the conservatives. But this election seems to be one more attempt to sort of consolidate power and marginalize as many reformists and moderates who can create this serious challenge to the hardline grip. And we have seen some of the criticism and protests to this mass disqualification even coming from centrist politicians, someone like Ali Larijani, who's not really a reformist himself. He's been a centrist hardliner, but even he was disqualified from the race in fear that he could create real competition for Ebrahim Raisi.
Tell us about Ebrahim Raisi, this man who is likely to be the winner. What can we expect from an Iran led by him?
Sure. Let me just make a note here that it's still early to call, even though the moderate Hemmati is the underdog. But Iran elections have also been full of surprises. So I'd like to wait until the end of the voting, which was just extended for a few hours, to see. But seems like Ebrahim Raisi has a very high chance of winning this election without real strong competition. He's the current head of judiciary, an ultra-conservative, hardline member of Iran's judicial system for the past 4 decades with a very controversial past. He has a record of gross violations of human rights. He was a member of a death committee in the 1980s responsible for ordering mass execution of Iranian dissidents. So his presidency, his potential presidency, is going to make things very complicated for Iran, especially Iran's engagement with the world, and specifically with the West, with the United States and its European allies when it comes to issues beyond the nuclear deal, which is something that they are discussing right now in Vienna.
That's very clear. Thank you so much for outlining that for us, Negar Mortazavi.
Thank you.